Boy, so the timeline is in shambles. I repeat, the timeline is in shambles. Why is it in shambles, Stu? Because um the polarizing political film, which is Civil War, has been released nationally in all theaters, and people are reacting just about how I thought. People on the right are complaining about the film, and people on the left are complaining about the film. And it's seeming like to me, everyone wanted the director Alex Garland to pick a side, and it's like he was, it's like he was like, nah, I'm gonna do you one better. I'm going to make an anti-war film. Period. And y'all can take and do with that what you will. And I think that definitely shows when you watch this film. That was definitely his approach. And I just cannot wait to get into this review. So let's just get into this. What to do? I'm Stu. Let me be your movie guy. Today we'll be talking about Civil War, a movie written and directed by Alex Garland. Now, right off the bat, you hear the two words Civil War. I'm sure you rolled your eyes. I'm sure you have this immediate gut reaction to hearing those two words, especially in today's political climate, right? Right. With that being said, before I even before I even dive into my reaction to the film, let me start by saying that I've worked as a photojournalist in TV and in print, and there was one assignment in particular that will always sit with me, and that would be a conservative convention that I had to cover back when I worked in TV as a photojournalist. And one of the speakers at that convention was former President Donald Trump. And he, during his speech, was going on about how the media is evil and the media is corrupt and you shouldn't trust the media and all of those type of things. And he tells all of the supporters in the arena to boo the media and to shun us. And that's exactly what they did. And I bring that up because I think that people with a lot of power do not realize how much influence they can have over their followers and fans. And I don't think he realized, or at least I hope he didn't realize, what type of dangerous environment that created with him saying that, and the type of anti media culture that he's crafted. And all of us felt very unsafe. Like, who's to say that his followers that were there, who's to say that they didn't get violent with one of us as we were leaving, once the convention was over with? You just never know. And I say all that to lead me into my reaction or review of the film Civil War. So Civil War follows a veteran photojournalist and a newbie photojournalist in this time period where America is now divided. Like, you have your Western forces, you have your loyalist states, you have your Florida Alliance, you have your New People's Army in the Northwest type of area of the country, and you just have all these different factions, right? And in this world, the president has literally dropped airstrikes against certain people in the country, which obviously breeds into the Civil War title that we were talking about earlier. And the film really does explore how your morale can be tested as a photojournalist, right? Because your job is to pretty much get the most sensational shot you can get, no matter the cost. Because at the end of the day, as we know, views is what turns into dollars, and dollars make the world go round. And that is why I felt as though the way that this film goes about telling or showing that through the narrative of, you'll have like some really horrible scenes happening with characters, and then the photojournalists are right in the thick of it. Like, the film definitely places you as an audience member right into the action in the war, and you feel like you have the camera in your hands, and you're having to make these moral choices on whether or not you should take a shot. And there's a line in the film where the main character, photojournalist, where she says that when she went to cover a war and sent the pictures back home to the States, that she thought that she was sending them a warning, telling the government and people, or just Americans period, that this is not the route that we should want to go as a country, and that we should be doing everything we can to stop that. And then she also mentions that she realizes that the warning didn't matter. Like, we are here. We are in this civil war in this country. What else do I really like about the film? I really liked the way that there were several moments throughout the film where people were literally like fighting each other without like an actual purpose. Like, there's a very specific scene that highlighted that the best, where it's these two guys that are literally shooting at each other. There's one guy in the house and then two guys that are far away from the house with a sniper, and they're literally shooting at each other. And one of the main characters that we've been following through the story asks one of the guys, like, whose orders are you under? Like, why are you shooting this guy? Who is he? And the guy just simply tells him, I don't know who he is, but the point is, he's shooting at us, we're shooting at them. It's kill or be killed. And I think, like, that's such like a messed up moment, because you're like going to war and you don't even know why. And I think that's why this is probably one of the most anti-war films I've seen. And it is preaching to both sides that this is not the path that you want to go down. And I liked how, as the film progressed, the characters that we deem as the audience to be sane, they start to look like the people that they're fighting against, you know? And I like that it didn't have anyone leave this film with their hands clean. Like, there's not one character in the film that I could say or point at and say that, yeah, their morals, they have good morals. Like, they didn't cross a boundary, they didn't step over the line. None of that. I can't say none of that about any of the characters, even the characters that we follow, which is such a shame, because you really grow attached to these characters too. And when certain things happen to these characters, you do feel for them, but you are quickly reminded that they aren't necessarily the good guys either. And I think that is what is going to drive everybody crazy. Like, everyone that I've seen on social media has been talking about how they wanted the film to pick a side, to say something in regards to what side the director picks. And I think the side that Alex Garland, the director, picks is anti-war, no matter what your political affiliation is. Because think about it, y'all. When there's a war, who wins? Nobody wins. If you're fighting over a territory or something, once you get that territory and it's into ruins, then what? What do you do then? What are you fighting over? And I think bringing it back to the guys who are shooting at each other at the house, it's like, what are you fighting for? Humanity can advance with more people that we have on Earth than not on Earth. Like, there's no reason to go to war to eliminate hundreds or thousands or millions of people, depending on what war you're talking about, obviously. And that also leads me into my next point about how I didn't quite understand why, once they broke into the White House and they got the president cornered, why did they choose to go about it the way that they did? Like, why did they choose to do a very specific thing? And I don't want to spoil it, because I want you all to come back and we all like talk about it in the comments and whatnot. But I just really want to ask the director, like, why did you let that happen? Because once they did that, where do you go from there? You know, like what happens after that? And I feel like that's a question that I really need to have, that I really would have liked to have had answered, because there's a lot of questions that arose in me while watching the film as well. One of the questions being, like, there's a line where the main photojournalist, tries to get some gas at a gas station, and the guys at the gas station, they all have big guns, yada yada, and they're telling her that your American money doesn't mean anything. You know, it's a civil war now, obviously, so American money doesn't mean much. So she mentions that she's gonna trade or pay him Canadian money, and you know his reaction is completely different. It's a 180. It's night and day. He's very much wanting to get that Canadian money. So I just would like to know, or I would have liked to have known, what does the status of the other countries in the world, like, they in a way mention Canada, so I'm assuming Canada is doing well, but like, what does that look like? Like, what do the world leaders around the world think about the civil war that's happening in the country? I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that, because other than that, during the Civil War, like, because we are focused on the photojournalists, we don't see much of like other people like that. Like, the cities that we see are like Washington D.C., obviously, New York, Charlottesville, and somewhere else. But like all of the cities that you go, you don't really interact with like the people, like the residents like that. So that's another aspect that I wanted to see. Like, I wanted to see like exactly how did society, or how much did society break down in all of these cities. Like, I know that American money isn't quite what it is today compared to what's happening in the movie, but I still would like to know, like, what's happening with everything else. Like, what is a day-to-day person's life like in this Civil War world that Alice Garland created. But like, with all that being said, y'all, I really enjoyed the film. I thought that it was very gut wrenching. There were a lot of scenes that I wanted to not look at, but as humans, you know, we can't avoid a spectacle, unfortunately. So I just felt like I just had to also keep watching, as much as I didn't want to watch certain scenes. But I think that this film, honestly, is definitely a plea to every person in this country to be a little more empathetic with one another. And I think that the only way we're going to do that is by talking to each other, like leading conversations with empathy and wanting to understand the other person. Now, with that being said, I am probably going to give this film a 8 out of 10. For me personally. I would probably give it an 8 out of 10. Like, the cinematography was great. The acting was great. The characters made realistic decisions, in my opinion. So it gets an A in that category for me as well. Yeah, man. I mean, I had a lot of questions, but I don't think the questions that I had or have take away from what the film is offering. So I'm very curious to know what you all's thoughts are. Let me know if you loved it, hated it, thought it was okay, thought it could have been better, thought it was a waste of your time. Whatever your belief is or reaction to the film, just drop down your comments down below, and I will see you next time. Peace.